It's a little bit lag. Hopefully it's not too laggy. But hello everybody, my name is Wyatt. I work in the tax foreclosure industry, or the foreclosure industry in general, but I broke into it after learning a lot about the tax foreclosure industry, and it's been awesome. I've been able to travel to at least, well, for auctions, 5 different states, and seen lots of crazy deals go down. I just saw somebody buy a hotel for $80,000 the other month. That was pretty crazy. So, you know, I'm trying to build my name in the space. So that's what I'm here making some videos, trying to share my knowledge, speak with people, figure out what it is they're hoping to learn, and address those questions. If I happen to not know the answer, then I'll escalate it up to somebody who I do know, and we'll figure out the answers to any questions you guys happen to have. But honestly, there's quite a bit to the industry. Every state is different. I mean, we got tax lien states, we got tax deed states, redeemable deed states. I mean, there's over-the-counter lists, and that's just the tax. Well, in Pennsylvania, they have like a couple different auctions. I haven't done any work in Pennsylvania, so I can't really speak to that state. But yeah, processes vary across all the states for tax foreclosure auctions, as well as pretty sure mortgage foreclosure auctions, I would assume. I'm more familiar with tax foreclosure auctions, although I have attended auctions for mortgage foreclosures. My bread and butter, though, is tax foreclosures. So I think for the first episode, we're going to keep it light. I'll explain a little bit more how I got into the industry. I was actually going to art school. I was studying animation briefly before I realized how expensive it was, and obviously AI is crazy nowadays, and AI was just coming out with like the image generation stuff when I started going to school, so I pretty quickly realized that was not going to be an avenue that would be very lucrative. So hold on, give me just a second. I'll try to reduce some of this latency we have. That seems a little better. Anyway, so I was going to art school. I have a family member who has been an investor in several different capacities, and he just reached out to me one day and asked if I could help him out with researching some properties that were going to auction. I was out in Pierce County, Washington, and there was hundreds of properties. This was on bidforassets.com. There's lots of online platforms for tax foreclosures. There's GovEase, Bid for Assets, Public Surplus. There's some like custom ones that some counties will have. There's a couple other ones too. I'm just blanking on them. But anyway, he wanted me to help him out, and there was hundreds of properties. And I never asked him to pay me, but he also never offered. I was just trying to be nice and learn things. But it took me forever. It took me like at least a day, like multiple hours to research these properties, detail them in a spreadsheet in the way that he wanted. And so what I did was I created a Google Sheets script with AI where I was fetching, or I would copy and paste all the parcels that were going to the auction, and then I would click this button that said run, and then it would tap into real estate data. It would take about 2 minutes, and it would do about 100 properties per minute. I can't remember exactly how many it was, to be honest, but it did a lot of them pretty quickly. It would fetch the bedrooms and bathrooms, and the square footage, and the lot size, and the year built, and whether it had central heating, or like what the exterior of the house was, if it was stucco, or there was lots of data points that I provided. And I mean, what he was asking me for was pretty basic. So with that script, I was able to do the script and some formulas. I was able to provide him everything that he was looking for, and that knocked down a multiple day process down to a few minutes time. And it would color code things based on what he was looking for, and it was super cool. Around the same time, I found a service called TaxDefault Resources, and TaxDefault Resources was doing what I was doing, but on a much more sophisticated, larger scale. They aggregate auction data across the entire country, and they put it all in one big research platform where you can select, single-family residential, multifamily. You can specify the maximum open bid. There's lots of filters that you can apply, but with their platform, you can search the entire nation all at once and figure out properties that meet the criteria and work from there. So I thought their tool was super cool, and that was part of what inspired me making the script in Google Sheets. Because I was a member of their website, TaxDefault Resources, one day the CEO, I thought he personally reached out to me, but it was just an automated thing. And he was like, "How are you enjoying the platform?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I made my own tool. It's super cool." So I had a hot head. I was thinking my tool was cooler than it was. It was a cool tool, but it was nothing compared to TaxDefault Resources. I was like, "I made my own tool. It's super cool. I actually don't need your platform anymore." Because I didn't realize the full breadth of everything they offered. And I was really proud of what I made, so, but yeah. They ended up scheduling a call with me, and I explained what I did, and they thought it was cool, and they asked if I wanted to. I told them it'd be super cool if I could just travel the whole country, attend as many auctions as I could, learn everything about real estate that I could, speak to everyone who I meet at the auctions, and learn a little bit more about their strategies and how they got into the industry and everything that comes with working in the industry. And they were excited by my enthusiasm to travel and attend auctions, and so they offered me a position. They said, "We'll fly you out to where we're at, and you can be our property inspector / auction attendance guy, where I go and I bid as a proxy on behalf of clients of the company, as well as inspections, and I do like interior photos after we secure the property, and some other side tasks. But really the bulk of my job is inspections and auction attendance, some social media stuff. I do some help with the initial underwriting, but eventually I'd like to be a market manager or something. Really know my stuff, really know the markets that I'm interested in. I'm fairly knowledgeable at the moment, but not knowledgeable enough yet to be a market manager. I know quite a lot about the tax sale industry, but I still need to learn more about real estate, just generally speaking. We're like rehabbing and doing construction and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I made that tool in Google Sheets. It was kind of expensive the way I was doing it. Property data is expensive in general. TaxDefault Resources pays a substantial amount of money annually for data. It's pretty insane, the amount of money that they pay. So I would never have been able to accomplish like a nationwide platform kind of thing. If you're just searching one market, two markets, I do recommend figuring out an API, which is like how you tap into third-party data. If you're only looking at a couple markets, I would recommend researching property data APIs and figuring out how to integrate those into Google Sheets to help you streamline your research. Yeah, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now. I've been to tons of places, met tons of people, bought tons of property for other people, not for myself really. still saving them money to do that. But we will be doing that soon. So we're just gonna talk about a couple of basic industry-related things. I don't have a concrete plan for this stream. Just kind of an introduction and talking about some basic things. So for tax sales, we're gonna mostly be talking about tax sales. Later on, we'll get into like mortgage foreclosures and such, but I mean, tax sales is a huge topic in and of itself. So in tax sales, you have a couple different types of auctions. You have tax lien auctions, you have tax deed auctions, you have redeemable tax deed auctions. In some states, there's even other auctions, but generally speaking, you're going to find those three types of auctions. Texas is a redeemable tax deed auction. So what that is saying is you don't really have ownership of the property until the redemption period expires. The homeowner has this period of time, and in the case of Texas, if it is a primary residence, then you have a 2-year period in which they can pay you back what your winning bid was, along with, my understanding is, it's 50% interest. If it's in the second year of the redemption period, and if it's a primary residence, it's 50% interest, which is really crazy. Non-redeemable tax deed states, you don't have that redemption period. You just get a deed to the property after the auction. Tax lien states, you're not bidding on the property, you're bidding on the debt that's associated with the property. So you're bidding to receive interest on the lien. I'm blanking on the interest rates, but yeah, you bid on a lien, you win it. Yeah, you can expect to receive. I mean, it varies, but there's states where, you know what? I shouldn't really speak about liens because I honestly don't have too much experience with liens. I know in Florida they have like a bid down interest system where it starts at, I don't even know because I'm not really involved with liens, but let's say it's 12%. You bid down from 12% to 11% to 10% to 9%, yada 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 yada. And the winner is whoever is agreeing to receive the lowest interest rate, and so that lien will stay on the property, and the homeowner eventually has to pay you back that lien with interest. If they don't, then however many years down the line you can foreclose on that lien and get the property, but there's a pretty low likelihood of that happening. I think like 99% of liens end up being, paid out. So it's very rare that you get a property from a tax lien auction. So yeah, tax lien states, you're bidding strictly on the interest on the debt. In tax deed states, you are receiving the property. And in redeemable tax deed states, you are bidding on the property itself, but you have a 1-year redemption or 2-year redemption, or it can vary. There is judicial foreclosure states, and there is non-judicial foreclosure states. And why that is important is because, well, let's say you go delinquent on your taxes in a state that is a judicial foreclosure state. What that's saying is, you go delinquent on your taxes, and the county files a lawsuit against you, and it goes through the courts, and it's a very legitimate court process. Sorry, that kind of sounds stupid. It's a judicial foreclosures. It goes through the courts, and it's more legit, And so, after the auction, you have a more credible claim to the property because the courts have already wiped off the other debts, and they've wiped off the debts. In non-judicial foreclosure states, it doesn't have to go through the court system, and they'll just auction off the property. And because of that, you have to get a quiet title action done, which it's a lawsuit basically on. And my computer's being slow. But a quiet title action is a form of lawsuit where you're like trying to show that you are the rightful owner of the property and you're getting rid of any other interests on the title. I believe in California, if you wait 1 year, you don't actually have to get quiet title action done. I've just heard that. I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, non-judicial foreclosure states, you have to go through this court process in order to scrub the title clean and make it truly yours. In judicial foreclosure states, the court has already gone through all that, and you should be receiving clear title after the auction. So we got anything? Just a sec here. So we got any questions? Nothing yet. That's okay. It's my first time doing this, so I sound like an idiot anyway. But yeah, we got tax lien states, tax deed states, redeemable tax deed states. We got judicial foreclosures. We got non-judicial foreclosures. Something to keep in mind is, generally speaking, you cannot enter any of these houses, regardless if it's a tax lien auction, deed, redeemable deed. In some cases, the property has already been vacated, but in other instances, all of the houses will still have people in there. And so you gotta do drive-by inspections. You visually just grade the property from the road. You take note of that property's condition in comparison to the other homes around it in the neighborhood. You take note of whatever you can happen to see from the street, whether that be worn out shingles, or the door is kicked in, or it could be any number of things that you notice. But generally speaking, you're not going to be able to see the interior unless it's pretty evident that it's vacant. Then you can go up to the window and look in and see if the house is gutted or what the situation is, but a lot of the time you're not going to be able to see the interior. And so you have to set your bid in, accordance with not being able to know what the actual situation with the property is. So I've heard a range of where you should bid. I've heard 60% of the as-is value. I've heard 80% of the as-is value. You want to have a good cushion because there could be some catastrophic issue with the foundation, just like split everywhere, all cracked up, and that would be an incredibly expensive fix. So you want to have a good cushion, which you're bidding beneath the as-is value. You do your comparable sales. You figure out what things of similar condition are selling for in the neighborhood to find your as-is value. And yeah, I'm only a little bit on the I'm on the acquisition side of things, but I'm not really involved with the underwriting. I'm somewhat involved with underwriting, but I just do like an initial underwriting. Other people go and they do the comparable sales and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna continue learning, but I can't really speak to that too much at the moment. I go to the auction. Some auctions are strictly online, some are strictly in person, other ones are a simulcast, so you can bid online or in person. I would say it's like 50-50 from what I've seen. Well, maybe 60-40. I feel like more and more auctions will continue to go online, but there's also a ton of auctions out there that just are strictly in person. So oftentimes you'll have to put down a deposit at the auctions. That deposit can be anywhere from like a set $2,000 or $500 or whatever. Other times it is a percentage of the maximum bid that you intend on putting in. You'll have to register with the county oftentimes. Sometimes you have to register a week in advance. Other times, once you get to the auction, they'll have a little table there where you can register. Other auctions you don't have to register whatsoever. So every jurisdiction is different. Even counties that are within the same state can be different. So you got to do a fair amount of research into the statutes for the city, county, state, for every market that you're looking at. The paperwork that you fill out after the auction, you put down your entity name. Sometimes you have to provide the registration certificate or whatever for that says that your entity is allowed to do business in that state. Sometimes you have to provide that. The form that you fill out is really basic. Just the entity, your contact information, phone and email, maybe some of that supplemental information about the entity. And then they mail you a treasurer's deed, tax defaulted deed, auction deed. They'll mail that to you. And I mean, if it's a non-redeemable tax deed auction, then you can get straight to cleaning that puppy out. If it's redeemable tax deed, in some instances you can you can secure the property, like you can change locks, I think, in some. Actually, forget I said that. I don't know that for a fact. So, what do I talk about? Surviving liens. Okay, so with tax foreclosures, the only liens that should ever stick beyond the auction would be any municipal liens, or maybe a lien from the county, or like what I'm talking about is like if there's a whole bunch of weeds growing on the property, then there could be a lien associated with that. Maybe a demolition lien if you're buying a vacant property. IRS liens, federal liens will continue to stay on the property. So, to be honest, I don't know how you research federal liens. I'll probably do. That's a video I should do. Or I should do a video on that. So I will figure out how to do a federal lien search. But generally, receiving the property free and clear, you just gotta be aware of some municipal liens that could stick. Another one that could stick. What's the name of it? It's a solar program. I'm blanking on what it's called, but there's a solar program where you don't have to put any money down for solar panels. It's like a state program, at least I think in Florida and Texas, and some other states. And the payments for the solar panels get added to your tax bill. And so that would be a senior lien, equivalent to like the bill lien for weeds or an IRS lien. One of those solar liens, if they opted into that program, that would also stay on there. That's okay, because I didn't expect that this first episode would be all that good. I'm not the best at talking in front of a camera, but I'll get there. Yeah, so we talked about tax liens, tax deeds, redeemable tax deeds, judicial foreclosure states, non-judicial foreclosure states. Talked about liens that could stick. We talked a little bit about underwriting and figuring out what you should bid so that you're accounting for like a foundation failure or all the copper is gutted out of the house or something like that. I wish I could answer some questions, but we'll get there. And my upload speed is alright, but I'm working on a laptop, and my laptop is just old. So this is a little bit laggy. If you want to break into the industry, attend a whole bunch of auctions. Like, each auction is going to have anywhere between like 10 people to a couple hundred people. I've been to auctions where there's about 300 people in attendance. Other auctions, there's only been 6 people, and I ended up picking up 3 houses for dirt cheap. The cheapest I've gotten a house. Well, I've seen houses go for as cheap as like $3,000, specifically in Minnesota. The cheapest I've gotten one for was $13,000. And to be honest, I don't know everything that was all wrong. It didn't look all that bad from what I saw of it. But my job was just do the drive-by inspection, do the auction attendance, and that was kind of the end of my job. So I didn't really see how that panned out. But yeah, lots of people attend these sales. typically you're going to have probably 3 people who attend each and every single month. And so, you know, those folks oftentimes need people in other areas. It's difficult to get boots on the ground in different jurisdictions, both for drive-by inspections and for auction attendance. So if you're a young person trying to break into real estate, especially in the distressed real estate industry, I would highly recommend attending some live auctions, speaking with people, you know, see if they need help in another county that's an hour away, and they might add you onto their team. And at the same time, they could show you how to do underwriting, could show you some of the disposition side of things, like marketing and selling the property. Some people stick only to doing auctions. Other people, they do wholesaling, which is getting in contact with delinquent owners before the auction and giving them an offer that they accept, and then those people will assign that purchase agreement to another investor. I mean, you don't have to do that. A lot of people do that, where they'll get the contract all set up, and then they have an assignment contract where they hand over the rights to the initial contract to one of their investor contacts, and they receive something called an assignment fee, which can be anywhere from, I mean, an assignment fee would probably at the lowest be like $1,000. On the highest end of the spectrum, it could be like $50,000 or more. It really just depends on the property. I'm not personally involved with wholesaling. We personally have found it difficult to get in contact with people through skip tracing, because we're investing in markets that are outside of our home state, and so oftentimes we can't really do any door knocking, and door knocking can be kind of dangerous. So we don't really do much like wholesaling, front running. I guess purchasing a property and then at the auction and then immediately selling it would also be considered wholesaling, or wholetailing if you do a cleanup before you sell the property. But generally speaking, wholesaling is finding a property that's defaulted, getting that contract before the auction, assigning the rights to that contract to another person, pocketing a couple $1,000, and then moving on. You never actually have ownership of the property. So yeah, you meet one of these people at the auction. They could have you do anything from simply doing inspections, or also doing auction attendance, or also calling people on the phone, also knocking on people's doors, making an offer, or saying that we would be interested in making an offer. And yeah. Let's see. I guess I'll show you guys the research platform that I use, because I'm not really sure what else to talk about at the moment. Right, so this is the platform I use all the time. This is the TaxDefault Resources website, and pretty soon here we're gonna have that discount code up there, the code Wyatt, where you receive 500 free parcels upon sign up. That actually isn't working at the moment, but we'll get that. I mean, they haven't sent it to me. This is my first episode, so I'm just kind of conceptualizing everything at the moment. But yeah, so let's show you those filters I was talking about. Okay, unfortunately, you can't see it in that little window, but you can. Oh, it's so wet. Okay, the page is unresponsive now. Gosh darn it. Okay, so you can select specific states you're interested in. You can select specific auction types you're interested in. Some states have both lien auctions and deed auctions. So you can select if you're specifically looking for in-person, online, sealed bid auctions, where you don't actually know what other people are bidding. You just mail a check to the county, and if you're the highest bidder, then you win the property. Nobody else knows what other people are bidding. So that's a sealed bid auction. Doesn't seem like there's an option for simulcast on it, but I presume online just falls into simulcast. There's also mortgage foreclosures as an option for the filters. Okay, so that's just the auction search. But if you go into the property search, then you have a whole lot more options in terms of filters. So there is property type, in which you can select, any kind of property type that you can think of. We got, there's even subsurface rights, mineral rights. But generally, you would choose, single-family residential, maybe mobile home, townhouse, agricultural residence, bungalow, duplex, triplex, quadruplex, apartment, commercial, self-service station, restaurant, warehouse, motel, hotel, parking lot, funeral home, nightclub, bar. Honestly, there's 300 different options on here, so I'm not going to read them all, but there's a lot of different things you can choose from. You can select a opening bid, like a minimum opening bid. You can select a maximum opening bid. So the only results populating will be, for example, properties with a opening bid beneath $30,000. There's a market value filter where you can, set the minimum and maximum land value, improvement value, and total market value. Another really useful one is flood zones. So that's one that I use all the time when I'm doing my initial scrubbing. Is I figure out if there is a high or medium flood risk on a property. If it's high, I'll just completely remove it. If it's medium, I'll say that we should investigate it some more, but it's probably a no. If it's low flood risk, then we generally feel safe going with those ones. I mean, that's not the only. It's not. If it's low flood risk, then it's a good one to go with. That's not what I'm saying, but we like to see low flood risk, and so that's why we put the filter on that. You can have a filter for the lot size. You can have a filter for what year it was built, the number of stories. Again, there's hundreds of options on here. Whether or not it's in a development area, if it's a historic building. You can filter out by a specific trustee, if you know the name of the trustee for a mortgage foreclosure auction. I'm not sure why you would do that, but I'm just saying that is something that you can do. There's lots of stuff that you can search by. I'm not going to go through them, but anyway, there's lots of filters you can apply. Yeah, let's throw on a couple filters. So let's say we're interested in, let's do hotels and motels. How about that? We're interested in motels and hotels. Oops. We got one motel. Let's see hotels. Okay, well, we still only have one option, and that is in Davidson County, Tennessee. We have an open bid of $35,000 for this motel. Let's check out what it looks like. I don't really know anything about investing in hotels. I mean, I know you have to figure out the cap rates and all that kind of stuff. Motels and hotels are obviously a business, so it's quite a commitment. We really just focus on residential properties or sometimes vacant land if it's good enough. And we do other things too, but generally we just focus on the residential homes. My computer is being my laptop is being way too laggy. Actually, I don't think that there's Street View available for that property. Oh, maybe there is. Okay, so just a quick Street View. Oh, that's a pretty cool looking building. Let's see, this picture was taken in April of 2025, and I had quite a few cars there at that time. So, presume it's in mostly good condition. Of course, you'd want to do a drive-by inspection. This could be completely burned down for all we know. We have lots of goodies in here. You got under additional property information, you can see who the owner is. It'll tell you whether or not it's in a like an opportunity zone or that kind of stuff. Got property valuation information. That tells you the annual tax amount, which is $26,800 annually in taxes for that building. That's crazy. A lot of money in taxes. You can see the previous sale information. So that property last sold in 1993 for $700,000. That's pretty cool. We got environmental hazard and flood zone data. So let's pop that open. Subject property is a known environmental hazard. It says yes. So I don't know what database that they're tapping into, but most people who just get started in these auctions are not going to know where to find that environmental hazard data. So that particular property is subject to a known environmental hazard. Maybe somebody was cooking meth in there or something. But there's also 3 other nearby environmental hazards. So it says that the environmental hazard status is a potential high risk. So that is important to keep in mind. It says the flood zone status is that it is a minimal area of minimal floods or flood risk. It's not good. We got past tax sale history, so you can see if this particular property was scheduled for auction in previous years. I'm interested to know, so we're going to fetch that. Okay, so it does not appear so. We got the tax sale information a bit down here. So that shows you the date that the auction will be happening. It's going to be happening on the 21st. It's going to be starting at noon. It's going to be held at the county courthouse and the public square. It says that the contact for the auction is a woman named Maria Salas. Shows her phone number, shows her email, shows how many parcels are going up in total at that auction. It specifies what type of auction it is, so it says here that it's a redeemable tax deed auction. It tells you the bidding procedures. That's something I forgot to mention before, is that, I already kind of touched on sealed bid auctions, but auctions can have different bidding formats. I've only ever really seen bid up, where sometimes the treasurer or the sheriff will have a strict number in mind in which you can bid. Like once you reach a bid of $20,000, then you guys only bid in $1,000 increments. Other times, I've seen there's one parcel in particular where they're bidding on it for like half an hour just for that parcel alone because somebody would bid, and then this woman would raise the bid by $100. So they went from a property that was building that was just a couple $1,000s to they ended up spending like $130,000, and she would just raise by $100 every single time. So when multiple people are doing that, that takes forever. Thankfully, in some venues, like I said, once you reach a specific number, they jump from bids being at $50 to $100 to $500 to $1,000 to $10,000. Yeah. So to supplement this data, for because this is a hotel, you would have a different research process than you would with residential homes. But let's say this was a residential home. You'd want to get your drive-by inspection done, figure out how it compares in relation to the rest of the neighborhood, and then you'd want to use a platform to research the comparable sales. You could use Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com. There's more advanced platforms that you can use. We use one called Realflow. We might have another one, but I know of us having used Realflow. But you set a radius of like a mile and a half, and then you go back in time to like the past 6 months, the past year, maybe the past 2 years if it's a really rural area, and figure out what things are selling for and in what condition they are when they're selling. And you can use that information to determine what the as-is value of that property, your subject property is, and you adjust your bid in accordance to the as-is value. If it's really dilapidated, you want to keep like rehab budgets in mind, right? So I don't know what the name of the method is called. I think it's just called the rehab estimate rule of thumb or something, but basically we use a grading system, like A, B, C, D, F, for grading the condition of the property. If it is grade A, then you're only putting like maybe $15 per square foot into renovations. If it's a grade F, then maybe you're putting $60 per square foot into renovations. $60 times 2,000, it's like 120,000. So I'm not trying to figure out real quick what the name of that formula is. Okay, it doesn't have an actual official name, so it's just generically described as a property grading or condition-based rehab rule of thumb, which is tied to cost per square foot. Some people use A, B, C, D, F, some people use A, B, C. If it's weak condition, you put that condition as A. If it's terrible condition, you put the condition as F, and then you would presume that you're going to have to spend $60 per square foot in rehabbing. That's also important for determining your bid. Because you don't want to bid so high that your rehab budget just eliminates your profit margin. Well, we've been going for an hour, and I've already discussed quite a few things. I could have done it a little bit better, but yeah, this is our trial run. This is our first time doing this, so hopefully you picked up a couple useful factoids. If you ever want to reach out to me, ask me something, I'm happy to respond. I'm an open book. My contacts are open. If I happen to not know the answer, I'll be transparent about that. I'll be like, I really wish I knew the answer to that too. So I will connect with an expert, and I will figure out the answer, and I will let you know as soon as possible, and we can both know. I'm constantly speaking with people who are veterans of the industry. All the people I work with have been, cumulatively, they've been in that industry for definitely 100 years or more. There's a lot of new people. I'm obviously one of those people. I've been with the company for a year and a half now. But I work with people who have been in the industry for 17, 18 years. So, yeah, whatever I don't know, I can figure out the answer to it. But I think that concludes episode 1 of the TaxDefault Hangout live stream. So, if you found any part of this helpful, useful, confusing, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And yeah, thank you very much for your time.